Folks, welcome into another edition of SportsBookReview.com's Roundtable. Here with my esteemed panel, we're going to talk some NBA. Now, a lot of videos you see, how are we going to get the A up and running? But now we're going to focus on when the NBA is up and running and who's going to take it down. Look, we've all watched sports in the past. The last thing you want to do if you're a hot basketball team, hockey team, or football team is take a delay or a break. If we take a look here, we're going to start Eastern Conference Finals to start it off. Now, we think the Bucks will probably end up in the Eastern Conference Finals, but there's a lot of teams. If we look top 5 right now between the Bucks, Celtics, Raptors, Sixers, and Heat, there's a lot of movement after you get from the Bucks. I'm going to start with you first here, Jay Money, to bring you in. We all know the top dogs in the East, right? We're talking about the Bucks and their ascension to get to the finals and see who they play. But now you're taking that deep dive, 30 days off, 45 days off to interrupt that fantastic season that they were having. Just talk about overall, before we get into specifics here, Jay, the Eastern Conference itself, from maybe those first through 5, 6, 7, or even 8 teams in the playoffs right now, Jay.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't say, man. I think that the Bucks are head above all of everyone. I thought the 76ers was going to give them a run for their money at the beginning of the season. Them bringing in Horford, obviously he got him beat. He had some injury issues, Ben Simmons. But when everybody comes back, obviously they're going to be healthy. But I still don't think the 76ers, their play on the road would definitely come into play. They wouldn't have home court advantage. Obviously the Bucks, their home court, they can win on the road and at the house. So I just think the Bucks are head and shoulders better than everyone in the East, even though they have some pretty good teams over there. The Celtics, the Raptors have some scrappy teams. The Pacers, the Heat, they got some scrappy teams. But in a 7-game series or even 5-game series, I just think the Bucks would clamp down. Especially, the Bucks in play. You saw them in the regular season. Now just think about playoff mode. Come on, you watched them last year, and I said, man, next year they're gonna be out to destroy everybody, and that's exactly what they did. It wasn't surprising at all.
It's really interesting, Junior, because when you take a look at it, because now you have this extended layoff and time off here, because we're talking about teams a la the 76ers in the East that were down their 2 superstar players. We're down a lot of other components on the team. Now going to be rested theoretically here just by the downtime that they're going to have. But we're going to fire up really quickly. And obviously, just talking here with Jay Money, with the Bucks, minus 242 on 5 dimes right now to win the Eastern Conference. Talk about some Eastern Conference teams that may be able to creep up in there, but just your overall outlook of what we're seeing from the Eastern Conference so far.
I'll leave the Philly talk to you two Philly guys. But since you brought it up, that was my pick to make the NBA Finals out of the East.
Yes.
So I'm pretty disappointed with what I've seen out of Philly. And there's 2 very obvious things going on with Philly. Number one, they don't really have a defined game plan. What I mean by that is when Joel Embiid is out, Ben Simmons all of a sudden looks like a guy you could build your franchise around because he can play in the post and his passing ability is special. Very few guys in the NBA can pass like this guy. He's got the size to do it all except shoot. Well, obviously shooting has nothing to do with size, but he has the size to do everything on the basketball court other than shoot, which is his one weakness. But again, if you build a team around him, he seems like a guy that can take you somewhere. They have no shooting, and I don't 100% believe that Brett Browne knows what he's doing. I liked the fact that Philly's given him a chance because he was around for all the tanking, so you got to give him a chance to take them over the hump. But as Philly guys, you guys really want to see Brett Browne come back? Because I wouldn't. That guy's clearly not the guy that's going to take you where you need to go. And even saying that I like the fact that they gave him a chance to take the team over the hump, I think that chance was used up last year. Bringing him back, in my opinion, was a mistake. But I'll get off Philly for a second. Other than Philly in the East, I think the Raptors need a little bit more respect. I don't think they can win the NBA championship, but they've kind of shown that they'll hurt your feelings in the playoffs if you don't take them seriously, at least from what you've seen in the regular season, because their road record is one of the best in the NBA. We know what they can do at home. And to touch on something that Jay Money said, I'm not 100% sold on the Bucks. Call me biased because of the way I saw Nick Nurse devise a plan to shut Giannis down. And I know it's Giannis. Jay Money knows I call him Giannis. Shutting him down in the playoffs seemed way too easy. Now, if you're Giannis, the next step in your development is being a playmaker when you're getting double teamed and being able to make shots from outside the paint. Yeah, he can do that in the regular season, but everyone on this panel knows NBA basketball in the playoffs is much, much slower, much more physical. And I'm not 100% sure he's going to be able to do that, on top of the fact that his second best player is still Chris Middleton. I'm sorry, guys. If Chris Middleton's your second best player, you're not a lock, in my opinion. That's just me. So other than the teams I've mentioned, the Celtics, you give them an outside chance just because they have a system and a culture that's been around and guys that have grown together. Other than that, I don't see any contenders. They get maybe Miami, but they're all over the place though. They're still a year or two away from being the real version of who they're trying to be.
Jeff, we got a perfect segue here from Junior Browne talking a little bit of Brett Browne, because when I look at the top 5 teams in odds on 5 dimes right now, Bucks, Celtics, Raptors, Sixers, and Heat, you're talking about 4 pretty good coaches out there and one guy out there saying, hey, you know what? But the doomsday scenario, Jeff, in the NBA specifically, for Sixers fans would be what? No NBA season to finish. Brett Browne gets another year in Philadelphia, Jeff.
I mean, Donnie, that comparison is like putting me up against 4 marathon winners. I mean, and then saying, "Hey, go run a race." I mean, it's not even close. I mean, Brett Browne is not on the same planet as those 4 guys. I mean, listen, I agree with Junior Browne though. I'm not in agreement that the Bucks are head and shoulders better than anyone else. I agree with the Middleton thoughts. I agree with the entire team thoughts, really. And at the end of the day, the Raptors have that significant experience in the playoffs. They've won an NBA title. They are built to win in the playoffs with their ability to defend, their length, the fact they can slow things down. If I were to pick a winner right now, I would take Toronto as well. I actually picked Boston before the season started. But my concern with Boston is, I mean, their front court is horrific. I mean, they don't have much to really contend with as far as with the other bigs. The Sixers, though, if you put me on that topic, I'd be on it for the next hour. We wouldn't be off here till 2, 3 o'clock. There are just so many problems. And Junior mentioned, they can't seem to understand that Embiid and Simmons cannot be on the same goddamn team at the same time. It doesn't work. It doesn't ever work, and it won't work. And the fact that you just, like a charity, continue to allow Brett Browne to coach because we don't want to hurt his feelings. He was here during the tough times. That means nothing to me. I don't care. He should have been the coach during then. And then when it came out of it, we should have gotten rid of him. The fact that the Sixers were a favorite to win the title this year was nonsense. They got worse than they were last year. They have no legitimate score at the end of the game. And they have no one that can shoot the basketball. You lost Jimmy Butler. You lost J.J. Redick. You've completely destroyed the draft over the last couple of years. This team is drafted horribly. It's amazing. They have no interest in second-round picks. Let me give you one team, guys. Team to keep your eye on. Indiana. Indiana is fully healthy now. Oladipo's back playing. Obviously, we don't know where we're going to be when this whole thing's over. But again, I like Turner. I think Sabonis has turned into quite the player. I like their bench. TJ Warren continuously gives them 20 points a game. They had coming into the lockout won 7 of the last 10 games. They had been playing well. I think the East is open, frankly, Donnie.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch. And by the way, putting 2 Philly guys to talk Sixers out, we do extend these videos out, and certainly it doesn't seem like there's going to be too much of a time frame on here, which always makes me laugh. We can go days, as Jeff says, on the Sixers. But brass tacks here, I'm going to start with you, Jay Money. Looking at the Bucks being the favorite, minus 242. We're gamblers here, right? Where are we going to get the value from? Who can come up? Jeff just said, a team like the Indiana Pacers can certainly climb up. When we're talking prices here, Boston plus 675 to win the East. Toronto, 735. The Heat, 1850. And then we're taking a look at teams like the Brooklyn Nets at plus 4850. Jay, forget about the Bucks here. Who can come out and win this Eastern Conference at a nice price here in your estimation?
Man, I can't say. And even though the Celtics don't have the size, I think that they could get the Raptors in a 7-game series. And even though the Raptors have shown something, I think it would be one of those cases where, and I really hate that the regular season can play out. And I think that the Bucks really did show. I know we ain't supposed to talk, but I had to say so. I mean, the disrespect that you got. I mean, I understand everybody has their opinions, but come on, man, Chris Middleton. I could almost argue that he is damn near the best player on the team. I mean, when you shut down Giannis is out. You saw who killed it. Chris Middleton went off, man. It is a 1-2 punch in the league that not a lot of people can handle, man. I mean, the Lakers went in there, the Clippers went in there. I mean, they had trouble. Chris Middleton is not to be messed with. A lot of people, he's one of those underrated superstars that a lot of people don't know about, but he'll go in there and put 30 on you in a quick second, maybe even 40. Him and Giannis, the complete team they had, the shooters they had coming off the bench on the Bucks head and shoulder. I would lay big money. I would bet anybody a lot of lot of money. But like I say, everything wouldn't be the same. But man, I wish we could have had some wagers on this, seriously. But with some plus money, I can't say the Raptors, they would have some good value as well. But I do think that the Celtics, and it would come down to home court advantage. The Raptors have really good home court advantage, and obviously with them having the 2 seed over anyone else, they would have the home court. But I still think that the Celtics would give them a run for their money. They wouldn't want to run into a team like the Pacers as well. I think they would give them a run for their money as well. They only lost by 2 in Toronto. I remember a game they should have won that game, man. I could talk all day, but I think they wouldn't want to run into a team like the Pacers. I think they'll give the Raptors run for money, and I think it will be one of those cases where they did all of that in the regular season to prove that there wasn't a bust or that they need Kawhi, and then they would run out of gas in the playoffs. That's just what I think will happen. But I think the Bucks, I would lay big money on them. And I know that I'm looking at the SBR odds, Donnie, and I see Heritage got a plus 110 for the Bucks, man. I know that it's probably not everything is, you know what I'm saying, it's probably shaky here, but I mean, I see 175 minus 175 on Bet Online for the Bucks. But yeah, some juicy prices. I think the Celtics, full strength, I think they get over their hump and play some small ball and get it done.
See that? Jamming with Jay Money daily. That used to be the NBA, arguing back and forth. This is what we do. We like to argue with each other, have fun, and bring these points together. Junior, let me bring you right in here. Obviously, talking about the Bucks as those front runners. Give me a team with a nice price that you think might be able to eclipse them and advance to the NBA Finals.
I mean, I don't want to be a homer and say Toronto because, like I always say on Jamming with Jay Money, I'm not a fan of the Raptors. I'm a fan of whoever cashes me tickets. But that being said, the Raptors would kind of be the obvious choice. Number one, because I think they could definitely beat the Bucks in a 7-game series since they've already done it. And I know they don't have a Kawhi Leonard, but just to touch on something Jay said, and this is not to start an argument, but the reason I guess if you want to say disrespect Chris Middleton and don't look at him as a superstar, because he's definitely not a superstar. There's like 6 superstars, 7 superstars in the whole league. Chris Middleton, if he was on the Raptors, I guess skill-wise he'd technically be the second best player, but I would still take the Broad Street bully, Kyle Lowry, who gets on everybody's nerves, but brings us that Philly toughness. Shout out to Beanie Siegel. On the Sixers, he'd be the 3rd best player. On the Celtics, he'd be like the 4th best player, right? So, like, all I'm saying is if that's the guy that you got to rely on other than the Greek Freak, and him and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe hasn't convinced me since he played on the Clippers. So that's just why I guess disrespect the Bucks. But I just think the Raptors, other than the Celtics and the Bucks, just have that moxie that you need to win. They don't care about home court. They play hard. And like Jeff said, their team is built around defense. They didn't beat the Warriors because they're better than the Warriors. They beat the Warriors because, well, first of all, the Warriors had tons of injuries, but they clamped down on defense. The only games the Warriors were in were when Clay and Steph were going absolutely bananas. So unless you have a guy that's going to go and drop 40, Raptors are going to be in the game. So I would say that the Raptors have a legit shot in terms of price, if that's what we're talking about.
No, it certainly does. Makes a lot of sense, Junior. Jeff, real quickly to wrap up the Eastern Conference, looking at that ticket, maybe the Pacers 20-1. Is that your squad that might be able to have that longevity, give you a nice price back to knock off the Bucks?
Listen, for the record, the only Broad Street bully is Beanie Siegel. To compare him to Kyle Lowry, a guy we do not claim, I don't think, as being from here. I hear you, though. No, look, I'm in agreement with these guys. I like the Raptors as well, or I'll agree with Junior. I like the Raptors as well. I just think they're built to win in the playoffs. They won in the playoffs. The problem is they don't have Kawhi Leonard. And, I mean, go back and look at every box score from the playoffs last year. I mean, Kawhi Leonard was everything to them. But I just think with Nick Nurse, I think he could be the best coach in the NBA. When it all comes down to it at the end of the day, who do you want to prepare a game plan? I think he would be my guy. I think he'll have an answer for Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. After those, who do you go to on the Bucks? That's a big question as well. So yeah, I'll go with Toronto as well. I think Indiana's interesting. Don't sleep on Miami either. Talk about a team, Donnie, that's built a group just from being terrific in the NBA draft. I mean, 3 of their 5 starters are second round or non-drafted players. I mean, just incredible stuff. That's how you run a team. Take note, Philadelphia, who can't seem to ever figure that out. But yeah, I'll go with Toronto and the 20th and Lehigh bully, Kyle Lowry.
There we go. Keep it moving. Western Conference odds. And we know it's the Battle of LA. Maybe the Battle of LA is actually going to show us who the NBA championship is going to be. The Lakers plus 153 on 5 dimes currently. The Clippers plus 185. Then you have that dip down. The Rockets at 8-1. Nuggets at 12-1. Jazz at 13-1. Jay, I'm going to bring you in right here and start it right off. If we're taking a look at those two top teams, obviously we have our eyes focused on the Lakers and the Clippers. And if we do get back on the court, what a battle it would be if they do line up in the Western Conference Finals. But give me a team outside of the Lakers and the Clippers that can do some damage to those two top teams here.
Do some damage, man. I would like to say my hometown team, the Mavs, man. I think that Luka and Kristaps Porzingis could they can make a lot of noise, but I would have to say the Jazz, man. I know that they were a tricky team. I think when they came into the season, a lot of people obviously getting Conley. I mean, they're supposed to be defensive. They kind of threw that out though. They kind of went to the offense. We know that they had two players that started all of this shit, but still, man, I still think that when they're in their best stride, they did take some losses here in the season, 4 or 5 game losing streaks where they just looked terrible. Conley didn't look good, but there were other stretches where they looked like a true playoff contender. And I think if we could have seen the full potential of them where they really could be, I mean, and I've seen it because like I said, they made money, they took money from them, but I really think at a nice little price, the Jazz could be a sneaky team outside of the Lakers and Clippers. But obviously we know that, there is a very nice chance that there would be the Western Conference Championship. But I think the Jazz would, I think they could cause some smoke, man, because when they want to, they can turn up the defense. But with them focusing on the offense, it's like they know they can play defense, so they just working on the offense all offseason. When you good on defense like that, you can always lean on. You never forget defense.
Jay, when the smoke clears in the West, who is actually going to appear in the NBA Finals?
I think the Lakers. Would get it done, and you could say it's for other reasons, but I really do think that with the team that they assembled over the summer, I told people the Lakers going to be real. They were a stacked team. They got players that's like 11 and 12 on the roster who I really think could be starters on teams like the Knicks. So, going to get players like Dwight Howard, stuff like that, I think they're stacked. I think they got a deep enough bench to get it done.
It'll be interesting, Junior. Let me bring you in here. We'll talk a little bit of Western Conference odds. To live and die in LA, as Tupac said, the Clippers and the Lakers setting up for a nice finals here. But outside of those, Rockets, Nuggets, Jazz, and anybody else, who do you think can maybe contest that throne and maybe surpass both of those teams and get to the NBA Finals?
Yeah, not to be a downer, nobody. Honestly, I think it's a 2-horse race in the Western Conference. If you ever watch Jen and Jay Money, I am absolutely not a believer in anything the Rockets do, from their coach to their 2 superstars, 2 of the most selfish players I've ever watched play basketball in my life. So I'm out on the Rockets. I'm out on Denver, whose best player is a pass-first 7-footer. Jamal Murray's your second best player. He's a Canadian guy. Good for him. I'm not believing in that either. The Utah Jazz, Donnie, your best player is a 6'3" guard who shoots first. There's none of these teams I don't think have what it takes to challenge the big boys for 2 specific reasons. LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard. Those are 2 of the 6 guys that I mentioned that are superstars in the league. There's not too many superstars, and if you got one of them 6 guys, you're automatically a front runner. The other teams are pretenders, in my opinion. They don't really have a nucleus that can stop what the Lakers and the Clippers do. First of all, the Lakers and Clippers defend. On top of the fact that they have guys that can score well, they actually defend. A Lakers-Clippers Western Conference Final would be a dream scenario for the NBA and just for us casual basketball fans. But I just don't think that any of the other teams in the Western Conference can really see the Lakers or the Clippers in a 7-game series, especially if the NBA comes back. And now you're talking about a rested Kawhi and a rested LeBron, no nagging injuries. And those guys are 2 of the more professional guys. They are working out. They are staying in shape. So I just don't see anybody else contending.
But if it was a dream, Junior, and the Lakers and the Clippers were in that Western Conference Finals, when you wake up from that dream, who is dancing into the finals?
What were you saying?
Who's dancing into the finals? I will go Clippers. And do I got to say who's coming out of the East?
No, so you say the Clippers would be able to take down the Lakers in the West?
Yeah, I just think that the Lakers supporting cast is still pretty iffy in my opinion. Yeah, sure, Dwight Howard looks great, but he plays like 18 minutes a game. Avery Bradley, can he stay healthy? We don't know. Danny Green, he's the ultimate hit or miss guy, right? He can hit 7 threes or he can't make a shot for 3 games. So I just think that the Clippers nucleus, I can count on Lou Williams. I know what Montrezl Harrell is going to do. I know what the rest of their guys are going to do. Plus, they have two superstars. So maybe it's a cop-out to say the Clippers, but I just feel like the Clippers have what it takes to take the Lakers down in a 7-game series.
Jeff, Western Conference odds, as we just talked about, Lakers and the Clippers, obviously the two top dogs, but you got some levels below that: Rockets, Nuggets, Jazz, even taking a look at the Dallas Mavericks, Oklahoma City Thunder. What are we looking at in the Western Conference? And again, who is going to come through the Western Conference for you, Jeff, and appear in the NBA Finals?
Yeah, look, I think the Clippers have the best overall roster in the entire league. I mean, this roster is stacked. I mean, look, don't sleep on the Marcus Morris edition either. I mean, he's a quality player. It'd be interesting to watch him and his brother play against each other in a series. But yeah, I agree with Junior Browne. Must be reading my emails. I don't know if he's a hackster or what he's doing, but I think he's reading what I'm thinking, because I agree with him. I think Patrick Beverley is a tenacious bulldog. We know what he can do. You love Paul George. You love what obviously Kawhi Leonard can do. He's the best player in the NBA. You look at Lou Williams off the bench, he's one of the best pure scorers you have. You have shooters, you have depth. And look, I'll tell you what, don't sleep on Zubac down low. Zubac is a quality player. I bet the Lakers wish they would have kept him. I like that kid a lot. Shout out to Serbia. Also, I just look at the Lakers, and I agree with Junior on that level as well. I just look at everyone else outside of Davis and LeBron. I mean, they're solid players, but I don't think they're overall trustworthy players. I just look at the quality of the roster, and I like the Clippers. But I agree with Jay Money on one level as well. I think the Jazz are interesting because I think they have one thing that a lot of these teams aren't going to have. I think, crazy enough, I think Mitchell and Gobert have chips on their shoulders. I think they're going to come out of this, I think, stronger. We know they defend well. I think they have a pretty solid supporting cast as well with, Bogdanovich and Ingles and guys like that. Here's the thing, though, Donnie, that we have to remember that I haven't heard anyone bring up. We have to come to the realization there will not be home court. Okay? We have to remember that. It's going to be like college basketball in the NCAA tournament. There's no home court. It is a neutral site. To think again that we're going to have home court and road courts is delusional. It's not going to happen. There's no chance that happens. It's going to be in one location if it happens. We have to think about that. So I'm going to tell you this, Donnie. The Philadelphia 76ers definitely have no shot because they can't win on the road. So they may get swept in the first round.
No, a lot of all that go over and more. We could talk all day long with NBA options here. Thank you for tuning in to SportsBookReview.com's Roundtable edition of the NBA Eastern and Western Conference odds. I'm sure this panel will be back together talking and carrying you through the summer until we get the NBA players back on the court. For Jay Money, Junior Browne, Jeff Nadu, I'm Donnie Seymour. Thanks again for tuning in to SportsBookReview.com.